Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so Kamala Harris has officially conducted her first interview as a presidential candidate. It's kind of hard to call it that, considering it was pre-recorded, only 18 minutes, and highly edited. I'd say it was more of a political performance than an actual genuine interview. It's been a month and a half of Kamala Harris's presidency, and we have 18 minutes. The left is doing what the left always does. Wow, how presidential, how eloquent, how amazing. Every Blue Line on shill is pretending as if that was the greatest interview performance of all time. But once again, I'm sitting here asking myself the exact same question. Are we watching the same thing? That was absolute frickin' trash. I feel as though I've learned nothing. Kamala needed a big score here, but I think this was anything but. Let's have a conversation about it. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Okay, so we got Kamala Harris's first CNN interview as a presidential candidate, and it was nothing short of a masterclass in political dodging. From start to finish, a total clinic on how to avoid giving a straight answer to even the most straightforward of questions. You'd think that a seasoned politician like Kamala Harris, someone who's been in the public eye for years, would have come more prepared to give a compelling, clear vision for her candidacy, but instead we got vague platitudes, evasive language, and really no substance behind any of it. What did we learn here from Kamala Harris? We learned essentially that nothing is ever her fault, she's had a perfect track record on all the issues, and of course the next expected step, everything's Donald Trump's fault, even the southern border.
During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation again. I just want to ask
about... Not only push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
Just one other...
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like most people probably weren't satisfied with these answers. All it is the same talking points that we've been hearing from every Democrat bot over the last however many months. Donald Trump spiked the border bill because he wanted a political win. I mean, really, you have to do this again? He spiked a bill that would have increased funding for Border Patrol and hired more agents. Border Patrol supported this bill. Yeah, no shit. You're talking about giving them billions in taxpayer dollars. No wonder they supported it, but the question is, would it have secured the border? Would it have fixed the problem? And the answer is clearly no. We know why Trump and other Republicans advocated against the bill, and that's simply because it was more wasteful spending and totally unnecessary. What really needs to be done to secure the border, most of it is actually rhetoric. A rhetoric change from the White House, maybe less promise of free crap for illegal migrants. I mean, that would help. California is now talking about giving $150,000 loans to illegal migrants to buy homes. I wonder what that's going to do to real estate prices in the state. Maybe stop that nonsense and reenact some of the Trump-era border policies that were clearly so effective. No one's asking you to reinvent the wheel. What people want is for the wheels to be reinstalled onto the vehicle. The perfectly functional wheels that the Trump administration had rolling just fine. But of course, here we go. Kamala Harris, who's been an absolute disaster on the issue of the southern border, takes zero accountability and just blames Trump. Holy frickin' moly, and the hypocrisy.
My value around what we need to do to secure our border. That value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
You know, I know Democrats are praising Kamala Harris as being so well-spoken and presidential and just amazing and professional, but I don't read it like that at all. I just see another slick politician. And I'll give it to Kamala, she's a whole lot more slick than I was expecting, although not exactly a hard feat. When you get all the questions in advance, you have months to deliberate and practice, and then of course the final product that's released to the people is highly edited. But anyway, she's slick. She's a typical slick politician. Now she wants to seem as a border hawk. This coming from the person who's been saying this for years.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
These are God's children. These aren't just throwaways.
Your immigrant status, whatever it is, does not in our mind's eye designate you as a criminal. I support our sanctuary law.
Abolish ICE.
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
She's a complete hypocrite. It's obvious that she's running from her record, and it's also blatantly obvious that she can't be trusted. At one point she said this,
My values have not changed.
quote, my values have not changed. So she says she's not going to do all these things. As president, I won't ban fracking, I won't do, all this radical stuff, but then follows it up with, my values have not changed. So if your values have not changed, Kamala, then I guess you still represent all this, right?
Reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
The Boston Marathon bomber, they should be able to vote.
I think we should have that conversation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes, and I'm in favor of banning fracking. I am prepared to pass a Green New Deal. I support a mandatory buyback program. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. The idea that more police equals more safety, that's just wrong.
Policing, as we know, goes all the way back to slave patrols and that idea of...
You are absolutely right.
Where do you stand on defund the police?
We need to take a look at these budgets.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should.
70 to 80% tax rate.
I think that's fantastic.
Chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
How dare we speak Merry Christmas?
Yeah, I am radical. I do believe that we need to get radical about what we are doing.
She's just another slick politician, delivering totally empty, vapid talking points. There's no actual substance here. She didn't offer any real concrete solutions to the myriad of problems that her administration has caused.
But I wonder what you say to voters who do want to go back when it comes to the economy specifically, because their groceries were less expensive, housing was more affordable when Donald Trump was president.
Well, let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. Literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it.
You have been vice president for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
The steps that you're talking about now, why haven't you done them already?
Well, first of all, we had to recover as an economy, and we have done that. I'm very proud of the work that we have done that has brought inflation down to less than 3%.
More economic illiterate nonsense. Prices are still too high, and we acknowledge that prices are high. She first of all takes a victory lap. We've done fantastic on inflation. No, you haven't. You caused crippling, historic levels of hyperinflation, and now that they're naturally going down after 3 years of economic pain, she wants credit for that, and then claims she's going to be tackling the issue by going after, quote, price gouging, which isn't even a real thing, and then she mentions a tax credit. What does that have to do with inflation? Inflation is an imbalance in money supply and supply and demand. This person has no idea what she's talking about. When she was asked what she would do on day one if elected, her answer is so void of substance that honestly, she would have probably been better not saying anything, because essentially she said nothing.
If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people. I think that people are ready for a new way forward, in a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families.
We're going to strengthen the middle class. We're going to reduce inflation. How exactly are you going to do that? Well, Dana Bash doesn't seem so curious. She's going to do it through the power of joy. Absolutely nothing here has changed. I know some people are going to be foolish enough to just fall for these empty words, but I just can't see the majority of productive citizens falling for this complete nonsense. Democrats are playing up her performance, but personally, I'm just not seeing it. If this is what Kamala's got, I think Kamala Harris is going to have a very hard time on the debate stage. It seems the strategy here is vague, empty platitudes and pointing the finger at Donald Trump and blaming him for all your woes. But obviously, there's a little bit of a hole in that argument.
Deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
But the last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
Why didn't I think of that?
The people advocating for change, the people telling you that the current state is unacceptable and it must be stopped, well, those are the people currently in power. This is the most idiotic thing I've ever seen. They're attempting to gaslight you to the level of making you believe that Donald Trump is responsible for all of their policy failures. I guess he must be writing the legislation personally from his desk in Mar-a-Lago, on top of a pile of secret nuclear codes that he stole from the Pentagon. Totally pathetic. Hopefully, people are smart enough to see through this obvious charade. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.